Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Parenting with the VM Foundation. I'm your host, Naketa West, manager of the Victoria Mutual Foundation. And with me today is Nasolo Thompson, mother of 4. And we'll be discussing today some of the ways that we can successfully parent during this challenging time. As you know, COVID-19 is not leaving us anytime soon, and we continue to try to navigate during this difficult time. Stay tuned for this important discussion. Welcome, Nasolo. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us about your children.
Well, we were blessed to have 4 kids in 4 years. Not something I would recommend at all. But we have Safia, who's the eldest, she's 11, and Ariella, who's 9, and twins Joshua and Soraya, who just turned 7.
Wow, wow. And what grades are they in?
So the twins are in grade 2, and then Ariella is in grade 4, and Safia is in grade 6.
Wow, so you're dealing with, early pep years and no pep years.
We are in the middle of the pep, yeah.
Wow,
yeah.
wow. That sounds like, a lot of navigating there. Let us start with meal planning. How is that?
Well, we run a pretty tight ship. So basically, I don't let them choose too much. I give them a very sort of narrow selection from which they can determine what they want. But I'm not cooking different things for everybody at every meal, right? So it's just like option A, option B. If you don't like either one of these options, you're going to eat one anyway.
Wow.
It's a bit harsh. I know some people don't agree with that approach, but it's what we do.
Yeah.
And to ensure that A, they eat, and second of all, that they eat on time. Because if we kind of say, oh, are you ready to eat? And the answer is no, because I'm watching TV, then you skip that meal and then you end up snacking, and then it just the whole thing just runs out. So I run a pretty tight ship. You have breakfast, you can then have a snack, then you have lunch, then you have a snack, then you have dinner, and then you can have a snack, and that's it.
Wow, that sounds really a really tight schedule, and you're ensuring that the meals are balanced during this time, because I know for me, meal planning during this time and homeschooling is quite difficult, and you have to make breakfast at a certain time, prepare lunch at a certain time, and of course dinner at a certain time, and of course ensuring that everybody kind of eat the food that you're preparing and not making several dishes. That sounds
well, you know what? So with the balanced diet thing, I try. It's not always successful. So what I basically do is I try and break up and make sure that they get all the food groups throughout the course of the day. So not at every meal, but throughout the course of the day, they get all the food groups. And in addition to that, we also have one child who has a rare kidney disease, and so she has some dietary restrictions. So what I try and do is ensure that whatever everybody else is having, she's having a very similar meal. So if everybody's having pasta, she's having her gluten-free pasta with everybody else. So we just try and ensure that at every meal, or rather throughout the course of the day, they get all the food groups. So for example, for breakfast, they might have, porridge and a boiled egg. So we get the protein and, everything at once. And then if they're still hungry, which is completely possible.
No, I know.
Then they get a banana or an apple or some fruit. And then at snack time, I try and limit the packet snacks, because when they're at school, it's very hard to limit that. But at home, I have a little bit more control. So I might let them have once in a while, like a packet snack. But otherwise, I try and limit the snacks also, because they're not doing as much movement as they were before. So we don't want them to gain weight. And just, the sort of weight gain that a lot of children and adults are experiencing during the season. Really sets them up for can set them up for some negative effects later on in life. So you have to really monitor that. And then at lunch and at dinner, they have their vegetables and stuff. I mean, to be fair, they're all super picky. And so there are some things that I just cannot do. So I cannot put avocado in front of 3 of them, for example. Otherwise, we'll have proper meltdown. But I can sort of blend it into a smoothie, or I can kind of make a pasta sauce out of callaloo and cheese, so they don't really know what they're eating, but they're getting it anyway. So that's how we do the whole food.
Yeah, so you have to become creative, the creative chef and everything at once. Yeah.
But also bearing in mind the budget. Food is very expensive.
Yes.
So we try and really ensure that we get things that are locally produced as much as possible, or at least within the region of the Caribbean, and things that are not super expensive. So lentils, for example, which they are not big fans of, but they will eat. Right? We have that a couple times a week. We try and have other preparations of things, and just so that it's a little bit varied, because it can get very, very boring.
Yes.
But we do try and manage it so that it's not super expensive.
And that's important because, during this time, a lot of persons have experienced either loss of income or reduced income.
Absolutely.
And so managing the budget while, taking care of your family is really, really important. So thanks for that. Tell us about online learning. How are you navigating that space?
Well, it's really hard. It's really, really hard. But I think that it's something that we just have to learn to live with, because I don't anticipate, and I'm not alone in this, that we're going to go back to school in the way that it was in the past. It's likely that we're going to have continuing sort of like
a hybrid.
Right, a hybrid situation, for some time to come. So we just have to adapt. And this is one of the things that I really try and teach the kids, and I really try and teach the kids, is how to be adaptable. I grew up, my parents worked in the foreign service, so we traveled and lived in many, many countries. So we just had to adapt. We moved country every 3-4 years, and we moved all over the world. You just had to learn to adapt. And that's an amazing exposure that I had, that I now try and bring to the kids, to say, listen, this is how it was, but this is now how it is. And it's not what you might want. It's not how you want it to be, but it is what it is. And so we have to make the best of it, and we can do the best of it. But it's very hard, for sure. Especially the managing the noise. It's, you think to yourself, oh, they're just quietly learning. They're absolutely not quietly learning. There's noise everywhere, people up and down. I forgot my pencil, I don't know where my book is. It's like a mess. So we try and be as organized as possible. I'm not saying we were successful at it, but we try and be organized. So, for example, the getting online I find really stressful every morning. So we try and start early, sort of 7:30 for an 8 o'clock start, because the earphones won't connect, the internet is not working, the charger died, nobody can find this on the other phone even knows, right? So we try and give ourselves a little bit of extra time in the morning to get set up for class. It doesn't happen every morning. And also I try and separate the two groups. So we have group A with the twins and group B with the bigger girls. And the two bigger girls, I bring them to work with me. I'm thankfully blessed with a situation where my coworkers are all working from home and the office is there, and I'm able to take them in. So I take the two big girls with me, and so I'm able to provide that technical support in terms of troubleshooting when the thing doesn't work anymore and I got kicked off, and mommy, what's happening? And I'm physically there. And also I'm able to kind of encourage them, especially when they get tired and they get overwhelmed and they don't want to do it anymore. You can say, okay, listen, just take a 2-minute break, go run up and down. The other day, for example, one of them was really tired. I think, also the screen is physically draining, right?
Absolutely.
So she was kind of like, doing this kind of thing. I was like, come, let's go do 20 jumping jacks. She's like, mommy! But I did. I got her out of the chair in the middle of her class. She did 20 jumping jacks, and she went right back down to sit down.
Because when they're in class, they're walking up and down at different times too.
Precisely. So I really try and be intentional about how we engage each one of them with the technology, because they're all different. They respond to it differently, they engage with it differently, they have different comfort levels, and they're we just need to be very intentional about how each one of them needs to function and what each one of them is going to do, and how they're going to use it to learn. So for example, Joshua, our one son, he's a boy. He wants to jump up and down and run around. So sitting down with a mask all day was never, ever going to work for him. And we knew that. So we said, look, there's no point putting them in regular school, because he will, get in trouble all day long. And that's counterproductive, right? So if he's in trouble, in a stressed out situation, or trying to learn some basic numeracy and literacy, it's counterproductive. So we kind of reorganized our schooling so that he and Soraya could be homeschooled, not by me. And then the other two are at a regular school, because they're at a point where they can manage that at the moment. So, we just try and do the best we can. But again, you just have to ask. I was asking around for somebody who could help us. We didn't even know who could help us with the twins. And just, by asking, somebody said, oh, I know somebody who's a teacher. She's just resigned from her position. She's a grade 2 teacher, and she's starting tutoring.
Wow. Exactly.
And I called her, and she was like giving me, the sort of breakdown. And I was like, so we can't afford that. Is there something that we can negotiate? And, she did. And we have a lovely relationship. So the point is that seek and you will find. Ask and it will be given to you. Believe it or not, the most outrageous things we have been blessed with just because we ask.
Yeah.
So that's how we're navigating online learning. You just figure, wow, I don't know what I'm going to do.
We're going to figure it out.
We're going to figure it out. We're going to adapt and we're going to thrive.
Yeah. So what about recreation? How do you keep them entertained and engaged and especially safe from, online danger, since that's where they are now interacting mostly?
Wow, that is tough. It's tough. So a couple things. I don't even know what day it is, but a few days ago, Mendel and I have been discussing for a while the fact that they're just on YouTube far too much. And the problem with YouTube is that it's a wonderful platform, right? But the problem is that prior to the COVID outbreak and our online dependency, we were the gatekeepers, right? We could hold the gates. And when we as parents hold the gates, we can say this is what comes in and this is what stays out. Now we can't hold the gates, or it's much more difficult, right? Because physically we cannot take away the instrument and say,
because this is what they need.
Right, exactly. This is where they're socializing, this is where they're doing everything. So now we have to really pray, right? And figure out creative ways to hold the gates. And I always use for my kids when I'm explaining it to them as to why we do what we do, is that, this kind of imagery, comes from a time when we had castles, or there were castles, and there were, there was an actual physical 20-foot gate. And there were gatekeepers, and those gatekeepers were responsible for letting open the gates, letting in whomever, and closing the gates. And that's what we are as parents. We are the watchmen, we are the gatekeepers. So with respect to YouTube, I just said, okay, that's it. No more YouTube. Finished.
Because that's their entertainment that you have to manage.
Yeah. But it's the best way that I can at the moment that we can manage the gates, because what's coming in is too much, right? So with respect to entertainment, I mean, many years ago, before I had the children, we're a Christian family, so we pray and we do all those kind of things. And I remember the Lord saying to me that the people that create content for children are adults. Yeah. Right? So content creators are going to imbue in their content their ideas because they're adults. Right? And so you are not watching child content, you're watching adult content created for children. So therefore you need to really sift through the messages of what's being shared. As a result of that, when I look at the content, I'm not looking at it like, oh, it's just a cartoon. I'm looking at it saying, okay, who created that content? 25-year-old man in America sitting in his basement,
you're crazy,
who might be a member of this, a member of that. And so what are the ideas that are coming through, right? And so with YouTube specifically, it's very, very difficult to determine who the creators are, to be able to really identify their ideology and all of those kind of things. So we just cut it off. So now we let them do online gaming, right? Which is a much, it's not a free-for-all, but it's a different kind of thing, right? So we cut off the chat option, so nobody can talk to them and they can't talk to anybody, right? Yes. So they can still go through the game and they can play, right? They can watch television, and we have cable, and we've been blessed with Netflix, which is great, because you can really hold the gates. You can say, like, this program you cannot watch. Whereas with YouTube, because of the algorithm, it just pushes whatever they historically watched.
Tend to watch, right?
They just push more of that content, which may or may not be any good. So for safety, we cut off all of this online chat. Well, they never had it in the first place. They don't have Facebook or Twitter or any of that kind of jazz.
And then TikTok is the new sensation, all these kids.
None of that. And so they actually, the eldest one particularly, feels hard done by, right? Because she's like, Mommy, everybody's on TikTok and I can't do it. And I say, yeah, okay, fine. I get that. But the challenge is that we cannot be there for you every step of the way to navigate the decisions that you're making. You're not there yet, right? So we can't put you in a situation where you're not yet able to make good decisions because you just don't have the skills, right? So when you get to the point where you are now more independent in your decision making, then you can go make those decisions, what to watch, who to watch, what to partake in, right? But at this point right here, we still need to come alongside you and help you in that decision making. And I frankly don't have that kind of time. So we're only going to do that when I'm available. Okay, and I'm not available to do that on TikTok, on YouTube, on this and then. So these are the parameters.
Mm-hmm.
Go wild within the parameters.
Yes.
Okay, do not
So the
overstep
boundaries.
the boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
If we overstep the boundaries, which of course they 100% do all the time,
Mm-hmm.
right? Then we have to have some mechanisms in place to manage that, right? Which we do.
Okay.
Which is essentially, well, you play with fire, you might get burnt.
No, a lot is happening clearly at home, and you know, with you. Have you ever felt discouraged, and especially with your daughter not being so well, and or having that health condition? You know, how do you deal with challenges or feelings of being overwhelmed, or you know, being a failure?
Yeah, I struggle with that. I think everybody does. It's completely normal. But I think it's certainly being amplified by the conditions that we're currently living in due to COVID.
Absolutely.
So the social distancing and isolation and the pressures associated with parenting during this season has really amplified it. And a lot of our normal sort of social mechanisms that would have supported us, our church, our friends,
yes,
are not readily available as they were.
Mm-hmm.
So again, we have to just be really, really intentional. So I make a huge effort to reach out to my girlfriends on my phone, and you know, everybody's busy, so it's maybe, you know, like 10 o'clock at night or something like that, where we catch up. And you know, it's also to have your group of people who you trust, who you can really be honest with. You know, a lot of times people feel the need to sort of present a picture that some things are maybe better than they are. I am very blessed that I have friends with whom I can be perfectly honest and say, wow, you know what, this is happening and it's so stressful, and I'm really, really, really struggling. So that's one. The other is self-care. So I know it should be exercise, but it's not. At the moment, it's chocolate, and I'm trying to break that. But it's somewhat chocolate, some other, you know, things. But also,
you'd be perfectly honest. It's an honest face. No judgment.
No judgment, right? And also, like stuff like I you know, with 4 kids, especially being so close in age, the things that you let go, especially as a mother. You say, oh, you know, the kids need school shoes, or they need this or this. You don't look after yourself in the way they used to before. Yeah. So I was like, no, we're done with that. Okay, I'm gonna resume buying, you know, the perfumes that I used to buy that I love, that, you know, are expensive, but they're not a priority. But I recognize that it's really, really important to prioritize what makes me happy. Within reason, you know, because if I can wear perfume every day and it lifts my spirits a little bit, then that's completely fine and it's helpful. The other thing is also being very intentional about how I behave, because it's very easy just to let it all hang out. So I'm not very good at it, but I try to sort of kind of reflect on, why am I behaving this way? So why am I losing it every morning at 7 o'clock? It's because it's too close to log in at school, right? The time is too close. So what I need to do is give myself more time to do what I need to do, so that I'm not as pressured at 7 o'clock.
So it's your own time management.
Right, exactly. But in order to get to the time management part, you need to reflect and say, like, what is causing this? What is actually the problem here? So those are some of the things that I do. And also I really try and focus on God. It's difficult. It's not difficult. It's just I'm not self-disciplined enough to carve out the time, you know. So it's, you know, you need to carve out the time to say, you know, like, where's our source? Who is our source? Because we're not getting it from outside anymore. So we really need to plug into the source, and how we're going to do that, you know. So those are some of the things that I but yeah, certainly when my daughter was admitted to hospital, I mean, I cried straight for 3 weeks. Yes. Straight. Right? Wow. Which, you know, the hospital staff were very concerned about, but it was also my coping mechanism. And sometimes you just need to do that. You just need to cry. You just need to say, it's too much. It's a lot, you're right. I cannot cope. It's okay to say that. Can somebody help me? Ask for help. Lots of people don't want to ask for help, you know, and sometimes when they ask, the people are not willing to help. Ask somebody else. You know what I mean? Just ask somebody else, and you would be amazed. So let me give you a good example. Soraya, because of her condition, she can't have gluten. Now, I am not an advocate for any of these sort of fad diets or whatever, but legit, she can't eat gluten. So being gluten-free can be very restrictive. But, you know, we've gone to the supermarkets, and there's a ton of stuff in the stores that we didn't even know was there that are gluten-free. But because we ask, it becomes available and it takes the stress down, right? So the other day they were at the hairdresser, and we're not big fast food people, but Soraya likes what's this called, Burger King. But she really wanted a burger, so I said, okay, we're just gonna ask, can they make us a gluten-free burger? So we took the gluten-free bread with us, and we went to the manager, and the manager was like, sure, no problem. So they gave us all the ingredients, including the paper. And they said, okay, just put it together, and they wrapped it for us, and they put it in the bag like a proper Burger King burger.
Wow, I didn't even know that. So wow.
Exactly. That's the point I'm making. Ask. You'll be surprised what people are prepared to do and how much help you can get when you need it. Just ask. You'd be amazed.
Wow. Well, thank you for that. But is there anything else that that keeps you moving?
I think it's just honestly my relationship with God. I'm very blessed in that. I think He's just given me this kind of drive that says, okay, like, you need to keep moving forward. You will stop. It will be delayed. Things will happen that you did not intend or plan for. But it will be all right in the end. Now, this is new for me. I was never, ever one to say it will be okay. You know, like, who are you to tell me it's going to be okay? Don't be ridiculous. Everything is crashing down. It cannot possibly be okay.
Where's that light at the end of the tunnel?
But I have come to learn. I think especially with spending so much time with my daughter being unwell in hospital and also having to manage all the other kids while they're at school, a whole lot was going on, that you have to just be still and let God do His thing. You cannot do it. You cannot make the earth turn. It's outside of your capacity.
Absolutely.
Right? So you need to be still, allow God to turn the earth, and morning will become night, and night will become morning, and it will continue, and you will be okay. You just need to be still.
Lean not to your own understanding. Wow. Thank you so much, Nasolo. It has been really an open and honest discussion, and really one that I found uplifting. So thank you so much for joining us, and I know our viewers will appreciate the conversation today.
Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Parenting with the VM Foundation. Parents, if you need further assistance, the COVID-19 Parenting Helpline is available to you. We've partnered with the National Parenting Support Commission, Fight for Peace International, and UNICEF to make this available to you. Just click on the link included in this post to access the numbers. I am Naketa West. Keep safe and happy parenting.